Every reinvention that actually lasts begins with a private sentence that you can sign, not with a speech. Before anyone else believes in the next version of you, you have to behave as if he already exists. And their behavior must be small enough to perform while your nerves try to keep you loyal to the old pattern. Day zero is where you write the contract. It is not a manifesto. It is a promise you can prove by noon. You take a pen, not a keyboard, because ink slows the hand and forces honesty. You write a line that divides biography from training. This is who I have been. Here is who I am training to be. You do not ask the universe for permission. You sign it, date it, and place it where your morning eyes will meet the words before the world can sell you a mood. The terms are simple and hard. You will govern your speech so that your mouth does not spend your self-respect. You will govern your time so that your hours point where your values point. You will govern your body so that your chemistry serves judgment rather than hijacking it. Nothing in this paper is spectacular. Spectacle is how people avoid changing. The first week is not about results. It is about jurisdiction. Panic and drift flourish when you attempt to contain terrain that does not belong to you. The Stoics cut the road along a seam that reduces wasted suffering. What you control and what you do not. You do not control the algorithms that arrange other people's attentions, the economy's temperature, the timing of praise, or the weather inside a colleague's skull. You control whether you open the hard document when it's time, whether you tell the truth without venom, whether you choose bread or sugar, bed or scream, rap or excuse. Control is local. You reclaim power the moment you stop negotiating with externals and return your hands to levers you can actually pull. The nervous system protests because it prefers drama to discipline. But the protests go quieter each time you convert an hour of noise into a clean act that moves the real thing forward. Assent is the second lever and is even more neglected. Before you thought pilots your hands, it asks for your agreement with a tone that sounds like truth. The sentence floats with the certainty of bad weather. This will take too long. He meant to respect you. You need to relax before you can start. You can fix tomorrow what you're sabotaging now. If you sign, the day bends. Refuse to sign until the thought passes a test. Name it the way a doorman checks identification. Fear, flattery, envy, fatigue, hunger masquerading as philosophy. Then ask whether you are dealing with a fact, an interpretation, or a prediction. Facts can stand alone. Interpretations are opinions in costume. Predictions are guesses with a drumbeat. You are allowed to hold interpretations and predictions lightly, but you are required to act on facts that a child could verify. This alone will make you appear unrecognizable to people who profit from your impulsiveness, because you will stop donating your hours to untested theories. Mornings carry more leverage than most people allow. The first 10 minutes either belongs to your contract or to the market for your attention. If the day begins with a feed, the feed hires your mind to sell someone else's incentives. If the day begins with a sentence you intend to prove, you hire your own mind to build. So, you stage the moment the night before. On a small card, you write a single verb and a single noun that name the first act that proves the contract in the material world. White paragraph, call prospect, lift weight, cook breakfast, review budget, walk a mile, clean desk. You place the tool required by the act where your hand will touch it. Before a screen. Document open to the line you must finish. Shoes by your door with laces loose. Pen and knife on the counter. Phone on airplane mode under a book. When the alarm bleeds, you do not negotiate. You move. The aim is not heroics. The aim is to teach your nervous system that feelings can follow decisions rather than dictate them.
You will feel awkward, even fraudulent, while you practice. That is not a sign to stop. It is proof that you are no longer rehearsing the identity that kept you stuck. Authenticity is not obedience to impulse. It is consistency with your chosen values under weather you did not plan. The body will send evidence that you are tired, that you deserve a treat, that today is uniquely unsuited to change. You can respect your body without surrendering to its first petition. Drink water, breathe through the nose, lengthen the exhale until your pulse stops campaigning for delay, and then take the smallest step anyway. A minute of motion will purchase 10 minutes of clarity. 10 minutes of clarity will purchase a morning. A morning will purchase a date that can actually pay you back. Because change without measurement turns into theater. Install a ledger that is too small to lie. Each evening, without flourish, write 2 lines, the loudest urge you refused and the action you took instead. Do not write paragraphs and do not prosecute yourself. The point is not confession, it is pattern recognition. After 3 days, you will see that certain hours and rooms and people purchase your standards for cheap. After 5, you will notice that the same excuse arrives wearing different clothes. After 7, you will be ready to design against the pattern because you are tired of paying the same tax. You will move the phone to another room during the anchor block. You will stage the first tool before sleep. You will change the route that walks you past the vendor that sells your discipline for sugar. You will ask for the early meeting because your courage is more obedient at 9 than at 4. The little edits look like nothing to spectators, to a craftsman. They are structure. Speech is the place where standards leak fastest. Weak language burns daylight. The mouth that says, I can't, trains the hands to quit. The mouth that says, I don't have time, trains the calendar to lie. The mouth that says, that's just how I am, trains identity to tyrannize training. Replace those lines with sentences you can sign with behavior. I don't yet know how becomes I will learn by attempting the first inch now. It's not a priority right now becomes here is what is, and you name it in the schedule. That's who I've been becomes here is who I'm trained to be, and you prove it with a single act before noon. The point is not wordplay. The point is to keep your tongue from drafting contracts your spine cannot carry. When speech aligns with the ledger, you become a person whose promises weigh something. The body is both instrument and amplifier. Chemistry that you outsource to sugar, alcohol, and midnight lights will turn your contract into decoration because it shortens your fuse and sells your attention in pieces. There is nothing puritanical about defending sleep like a vault, about moving daily until your breath deepens and your mind returns to ground, about eating in patterns that keep tomorrow's judgment funded. You're not building a statue. You're building a tool that can do work on command. When the tool is clean, ordinary discipline feels less like combat and more like maintenance. A clean tool makes you look unrecognizable long before your resume changes, because reliability is a rarer charisma than charm. It is tempting, especially in week 1, to announce your project so that applause will shame you into consistency. The quiet version lasts. You will tell a few people who deserve to know, not to recruit them as jurors, but to recruit them as witnesses to acts, not moods. You will report without drama, woke at 6, shipped the draft, lifted for 30, kept the boundary, cooked before screens, ledger written. If they are decent, they will nod and carry on. If they are addicted to your old chaos, they will tease or prod. Either way, you will practice not selling your standards for belonging. You are not hard to get, you are hard to misuse. That line will become true by repetition, not performance. By the 7th sunrise, the external world will look unchanged. The inbox will still be hungry, the market indifferent, the mirror familiar, the people in your life still learning what your new posture means for them. The internal world will no longer be the same. The morning card will have grown heavier because it now carries proof. The evening ledger will have turned drama into data. The gap between what you say and what you do will have narrowed enough to reduce the static that used to haunt your pillow. You will have learned that you can feel an urge and choose not to obey it, that you can hold a thought without inviting it to drive, that you can spend 60 minutes building something while the internet is busy trying to rent your attention at wholesale. This is not a climax. It is the first platform that can support weight. If you want a symbol for the first week, imagine a door with two locks. The top lock is control, which keeps your keys in your pocket instead of in the hands of moods, markets, and other people's schedules. The bottom lock is ascent, which keeps unexamined stories from moving into your house and redecorating the rooms. Most intruders cannot pick both. They rattle and shout, and then they leave when they realize you will not feed them. Each morning you test the locks by doing the smallest promised act before your feelings finish voting. Each evening you test them again by writing two honest lines and sleeping without a closing argument. The world will keep its noise. You will keep your jurisdiction. That is how a person begins to become unrecognizable, not by shouting a new name, but by building a day that cannot be bought by impulse, rented by flattery, or derailed by weather. Power leaks through the calendar faster than through any other door. You imagine that willpower decides your life, but most of the time your schedule already decided it before you were awake. The hours you leave unclaimed get colonized by other people's alarms, and the hours you claim vaguely get diluted by improvisation that feels free and ends as drift. The cure is not more noise about hustle, it is sovereignty. Sovereignty looks boring on paper. It is a day arranged by principles rather than by appetites. A day with anchors that do not check your mood before they begin. A day that points your attention where your values point even when novelty invites you to perform detours. Nothing about this requires perfection. It requires selection, an early decision that today will be built by four beams strong enough to hold weight when feelings wobble: courage, justice, temperance, wisdom. The beams are not slogans. They are blocks of time that protect the acts that turn you into someone you can recognize when nobody is watching. Begin by facing the lie that you lack time. You do not lack time, you lack hierarchy. A hierarchy is a list of yeses that make later no's automatic. Write down, in ink you can see from across the room, the two anchors that cannot be sold today under any weather. The block where you ship something that matters, and the block where you maintain the instrument that ships it. Shipping is courage, because it risks judgment and refuses the fantasy of endless preparation. Maintenance is temperance, because it denies the easy inputs that make tomorrow pay for tonight. Everything else fits around these anchors, or it does not fit at all. When a demand arrives claiming urgency, you compare its weight to the anchors. If it is lighter, it waits. If it is heavier, you move the anchors to a new slot rather than canceling them, the way a captain reroutes cargo in a storm but does not throw the engine overboard. This is what it means to treat your hours like a workshop rather than a lobby. A day becomes honest when you stop measuring it by exhaustion and start measuring it by proof. Proof is not the number of minutes you were on. Proof is a real object in the world that did not exist this morning, and now does, because you moved your hands, a page that another person can read, a call that produced a decision, a feature that works, a boundary enforced without heat, a clean kitchen that used to recruit excuses. To create proof reliably, you must protect the morning from the auction, where your attention sells cheap. Before any feed gets its bid, the first anchor opens. You do not ask your feelings for permission. You sit, you lower the beam of your focus onto one specific task defined last night in a sentence short enough to fit in the margin of a book, and you move it forward until the smallest meaningful unit ships. When you finish, you log the proof with a line that reads like a receipt: draft sent, proposal delivered, code merged, conversation had, plan clarified. Your nervous system learns that you keep promises at sunrise, and this memory is the antidote to afternoon bargaining. Justice enters when you stop treating other people's lives as props and your own promises as suggestions. It looks like putting dates next to names, like answering the message you owe before posting the message that harvests approval, like arriving when you said you would and refusing to buy praise by rescuing others from the consequences that would have taught them. Justice dictates that your schedule cannot be a secret. You weaponize to avoid commitments. It should be simple enough to explain and strong enough to enforce. You can be generous without being harvestable. When someone asks for a piece of your day, you ask what decision is at stake, what success looks like, and when a reply is due. You offer the slice you can deliver without burning the anchors, or you decline with courtesy rather than with vague apologies that pretend the calendar is a natural disaster. This is not coldness, it is respect for both of you. Temperance is the discipline that prevents your plan from being purchased by appetites that advertise as recovery. You do not need to swear off pleasure to build a formidable quarter. You need to change the order in which pleasure visits. Pleasure comes after proof so that it becomes celebration rather than anesthesia. You let the body sweat before you pour the drink. You let the paragraph exist before you watch the screen. You let the conversation that matters happen before the conversation that flatters. You structure the kitchen so the first decision you meet favors tomorrow. You exile the phone during the deepest block so that an engineered slot machine cannot sit at your elbow and bid for your mind. You keep a book where your hand can reach it when the urge to scroll becomes loud and you want to demonstrate who is in charge. Temperance is not a performance. It is a logistics plan for a brain you intend to trust at 3p. A value block is not a mood, it is a vow. Wisdom is what prevents sovereignty from hardening into stubbornness. It is the morning pencil that allows a better fact to edit the plan, the humility to ask a mentor for one sentence that would save you a week, the willingness to reread your own notes and discover that yesterday's certainty was an interpretation dressed as data. Wisdom looks like 30 quiet minutes where the only goal is to think in complete paragraphs about the one decision that would tilt the week if you chose well. It looks like writing until you see your assumptions on paper and can cut them. It looks like reading work that survives centuries instead of news that would be forgotten by dinner, because you're trying to build a spine that does not bend every time the room changes tone. To keep the day from drifting back into mood, install a loop that renews sovereignty without asking for a ceremony. Before work begins, you recite your anchors like a flight plan. Ship this, maintain that. At midday, you take 2 minutes away from screens and ask whether the controllable inch moved. If not, you move it now before the afternoon invents reasons. In the evening, you close the ledger by naming the urge that tried hardest to rent your attention and the action you took instead, and you write the opening sentence for tomorrow's first block so your tired self does not have to negotiate with an empty page. These microchecks act like rivets. Alone, they are small. Together, they hold the airframe when turbulence returns. Emergencies will arrive and try to auction your integrity in exchange for applause. That is, when the schedule must act like a constitution rather than like a mood board. Constitutions can be amended, they cannot be ignored without consequence. You acknowledge the event, you adjust the order of the day with the least violence possible, and you preserve the anchors even if they shrink. 10 minutes of maintenance is still maintenance. One concrete deliverable is still proof. A shortened planning window is still wisdom if it prevents a night of performative anxiety that produces nothing. The habit you are training is not invulnerability. It is the refusal to abandon the mechanisms that keep you coherent. People who knew you before this will say that you have changed. They will be right, and some will not enjoy it because your old availability subsidized their lack of planning. You do not owe them a debate. You owe them consistent terms delivered early and enforced without venom. If your new posture gives you more time, spend it where it compounds, in relationships that respect the beams, in work that ages well, in rest that restores rather than erases. If your new posture exposes empty hours you used to drown, fill them with competence until your days feel heavy enough to satisfy you without spectacle. The surprise is that calm begins to look like confidence, and confidence begins to look like self-respect, and self-respect makes you selective in a way that quietly rewrites your reputation. People start to treat your name like a unit of reliability. That, more than any speech, is what makes you unrecognizable. None of this requires special talent. It asks for the smallest act in the first hour, the most honest block you can protect, the clearest boundary you can deliver, the plainest sentence you can write at night about what tomorrow must prove. If you keep this for 2 weeks, the world will still be noisy, but your posture inside it will be quieter and heavier. You will notice that decisions feel less theatrical and that days end with fewer closing arguments. That is the feeling of sovereignty. If this approach is sharpening your edge and you want to keep compounding it, stay with me. The next move changes not just how you plan, but how you hold pressure when it shows up on schedule. There is a particular fatigue that does not come from work. It comes from living at the mercy of appetites that promise relief and deliver a thinner spine. You know it, by the way, small frictions feel like personal insults and ordinary delays ignite a courtroom in your head. The quickest path out of that weakness is not a louder speech about grit, but a scheduled relationship with discomfort that you choose before life chooses it for you. When stress is only ever an ambush, you panic and bargain. When stress is also a practice, you recognize its scent and move with steadier hands. This is why becoming unrecognizable requires you to install difficulty on purpose. The point is not to suffer. The point is to raise the ceiling on what you can carry without selling out your standards. Begin with the body, because appetites recruit physiology first and then draft philosophy to justify themselves. A tired brain will write essays about why the scroll is research and the sugar is medicine. If you want cleaner judgment in the afternoon, train for it in the morning. Move until your breath deepens and your mind returns to ground, not as a performance of identity, but as a daily negotiation with chemistry. The first 10 minutes are the toll. Pay it before you can itemize reasons to skip. Cold meets skin, muscles complain, and your nervous system files a new truth. You can stand sensation without demanding a treat. That truth travels with you into negotiations, conflict, and work that doesn't clap when you finish. You stop mistaking agitation for danger. You stop needing applause to continue. You stop treating every inconvenient request as a violation that entitles you to mismanage your evening. Discomfort becomes intelligent when it is specific and small enough to repeat. The mistake is to invent a grand gauntlet that burns brightly for 3 days and then dies with a caption. You want a ladder with rungs close together so you can climb while tired and busy. If hard conversations make you hide behind long emails, the rung is one sentence spoken cleanly before you retreat to polish. If your evenings dissolve into novelty, the rung is a single protected hour where the phone lives in another room and your hands make something you can see. If your meals are theater for feelings you refuse to name, the rung is one plate that looks like fuel and one drink, fewer than habit expects. None of these rungs are glamorous. They are boring on purpose, because boring is repeatable and repetition is the only language that rewires appetite. The nervous system resists change by demanding a guarantee that you will feel brave before you act. You cannot offer that guarantee. You can offer a rule that beats the stall: act before feelings finish voting. Not recklessly, not in denial of context, simply before the committee in your head finishes its closing argument. Walk for 2 minutes before deciding whether to continue. Draft the first sentence before deciding whether the paragraph is good. Dial and let it ring before deciding whether you will say the thing. The surge of anxiety is a weather front. It arrives loud and leaves quickly if you do not feed it with attention. When you move during the surge, you teach your body a new order of operations in which behavior leads and mood follows. That order is worth more than any slogan. The other half of the work is subtraction. Appetites become tyrants when they learn that you will negotiate endlessly with them. Negotiation produces clever lies. You earned this, you need this, you will be someone else tomorrow. Temperance is not a vow of poverty, it is the refusal to mortgage tomorrow's clarity for tonight's anesthesia. You can still celebrate, but you earn the softness by placing weight on the day first. You can still be informed, but you refuse the outrage feed that rents your attention to merchants of cortisol and then invoices your patience. You can still enjoy novelty, but you stop drowning in it at the hour when your standards used to hold. Every subtraction frees energy that you didn't know was yours because it has been paying interest on impulses that never paid you back. Chosen difficulty is easier to endure when it belongs to a story larger than self-punishment. Tie it to the virtues you claim to admire and let them choose today's friction for you. Courage asks for the conversation, the pitch, the first rep while your stomach suggests postponement. Justice asks you to tell the truth gently, to keep the promise without theater, to refuse to harvest validation by volunteering as a savior in other people's chaos. Temperance asks you to leave pleasure on the table so that you can respect your decisions in the morning. Wisdom asks you to slow down long enough to change your mind when a better fact appears. When difficulty is justified by virtue, you stop negotiating with it as if comfort were king. Comfort becomes a guest who leaves at a reasonable hour. This season exposes the myth of authenticity as obedience to impulse. People who fear training call discipline fake because the first reps feel like a costume. They are correct about the feeling and wrong about the conclusion. Clothing is a costume until your body grows into it. The act is honest when it aligns with your chosen standards, even if your archives testify that you have been different. You are not lying when you run the new drill. You are telling the truth about the future and letting the nervous system catch up. The catching up is slow. That is fine. The man you are building has patience. He is busy repeating small acts that compound into posture. Use if then scripts to keep your footing when the surge hits. If the invitation arrives to stay out past the hour that buys tomorrow, then you decline without an essay and propose a day where celebration doesn't tax your standards. If the hand reaches for the feed, then it reaches for the notebook first and writes one line about what you intend to prove in the next hour. If the voice in your head says that's just how you are, then you restate it as that's how you've been and perform the smallest contradictory behavior within 60 seconds. The rule is not magical, it is merciful. It lets a tired person act in alignment without needing to negotiate philosophy with adrenaline. Relationships are where appetites and discomfort collide in the most instructive way. You will discover that you used contact to regulate mood and that silence feels like hunger. Treat the hunger as information, not as command. Do not outsource it to someone who cannot or will not hold the weight you keep trying to place in their hands. You can miss someone without writing them a script. You can love someone and still refuse to exchange your standards for proximity. The practice here is to replace bargaining with behavior. You keep your tongue clean. You enforce the boundary you stated when you were calm. You serve where service is honorable. You leave where your presence teaches another person that inconsistency is enough. This too is discomfort by design. It is the refusal to buy relief by selling yourself. Expect regression. The ladder you are climbing has rungs worn smooth by years of use in the other direction. You will indulge, so will overtalk. You will skip the one act that keeps your day honest and feel the specific shame of recognizing that the cost is never the event itself, but the story that follows, the one that says you are back to zero. Reject that story because it is lazy and false. You are not a meme, you are a craftsman. Craftsmen correct. The smallest correction in the next hour is the only redemption worth anything. Drink water. Step outside. Write the sentence. Apologize without performing. Leap on time. Repair quickly and you will learn that a miss does not have to become a habit. In this window, you will also notice the social economy that grew around your old appetites. Some people measured their comfort by your willingness to drift with them. When you stop drifting, they will call you rigid or self-righteous. Smile politely. You no longer price your life at the cost of their boredom. You also no longer need to humiliate anyone to justify your choices. You simply leave early, arrive ready, say no cleanly, say yes without resentment, and keep a schedule that does not require desecrating tomorrow to enjoy today. The change will look like arrogance to those who profited from your undisciplined generosity. It will feel like sanity in your bones. Sanity is the real prize of discomfort. The quiet proof that this phase is working is not a photograph. It is the disappearance of certain negotiations. You no longer debate whether to begin. You begin and let the first minute decide if you continue. You no longer explain your bedtime, you go to bed because tomorrow's judgment pays more dividends than tonight's story. You no longer dramaturge about standards. You leave rooms that punish them and build rooms where they breathe. You no longer mistake stimulation for meaning. You can sit with plain tasks and feel the solidity of hours that add up to a person. Your appetite for novelty hasn't died. It has been demoted. Your appetite for respect, the kind you pay yourself, has been promoted. By the end of these days, you may still look the same to a stranger, but you will not feel the same to yourself. Your mornings will have a heavier silence because they carry proof instead of intentions. Your afternoons will be less brittle because your chemistry answers to you instead of the other way around. Your evenings will contain more room for friendship and ease because you are not busy repairing the damage created by an undisciplined day. You will have trained a simple faith that you can stand sensation without bribing it, that you can move before mood, that you can subtract without becoming joyless, that you can choose standards over cravings and still laugh easily. This is the architecture of someone unrecognizable to his former habits. Keep climbing the small rungs. The air improves a little with every step. Now, some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day" so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Precision is kinder than accommodation. Accommodation feels generous in the moment because it spares you the friction of saying no, but it purchases that comfort with interest you pay later in resentment, confusion, and work you never agreed to do. Precision begins with a page, not a confrontation. You write what you are willing to participate in and what you are not, using language that would hold up in a hallway. You do not attack anyone's character. You define your rules of engagement. You will not trade clarity for proximity. You will not buy peace with self-disrespect. You will not use sarcasm as a substitute for courage. You will not reward inconsistency with increased access. The page is not a performance. It is a contract with yourself that keeps you from improvising weakness when you are tired. People can feel the difference immediately. When you are coherent, your yes lands like a promise and your no lands like a fact. When you are incoherent, your yes sounds like a bribe and your no sounds like a threat. Boundaries are not punishments, they are architecture. A house without walls is not open-minded, it is uninhabitable. The same is true of your days. You decide how people can reach you, when meetings become real rather than hypothetical, what constitutes a workable plan, how conflict is handled, and what happens when the rules are ignored. You do not need volume to make these lines real. You need consequences you are willing to enforce with a calm face. If someone treats your time as elastic, you stop building your plans on their promises. If silence is used as a weapon, the conversation pauses until it can proceed in plain speech. If affection appears only when you threaten to leave, you stop performing emergencies and start requiring consistency. You never have to announce these moves with fanfare. You simply apply them every time the pattern appears, the way gravity applies itself, whether or not anyone believes in it. Standards only become oppressive when they are asymmetrical. If you demand punctuality but show up late to your own life, your nervous system learns that your lines are costumes. If you ask for honesty and then punish truth with theatrics, people will learn to lie to keep the room quiet. If you want effort symmetry, but keep rewarding breadcrumbs with feasts, you are training the very imbalance you say you hate. Correct the asymmetry first on your side of the table. Arrive for yourself when you said you would. Reward candor even when it stings. Withdraw energy from cycles that use your generosity to avoid growth. When your private conduct rhymes with your public terms, your words stop needing backup dancers. You will still have conflict, but it will be clean conflict between two adults choosing outcomes rather than messy drama between two egos protecting roles. Selection is kinder than persuasion. Persuasion is often a covert attempt to manage someone else's interior world so you can feel safe. It exhausts you and insults them. Selection notices what exists and chooses where to invest. You state your terms once in ordinary language and you watch behavior. Warmth without reliability is a pleasant weather pattern. You enjoy the sun and do not build the house under it. Talent without integrity is a fireworks show. You take a photo and you do not start a business there. Charm without curiosity is a mirror costumed as a window. You wave at your reflection and move on. You do not vilify what you decline. You simply decline because your life is a budget and budgets are choices. Saying yes everywhere is not kindness, it is malnutrition. There is a sentence that turns theatrical boundaries into useful ones. Proposal beats presumption. Presumption is the belief that if they cared, they would just know. Proposal is the practice of putting terms on paper and letting two adults decide whether they can honor them. You can propose a pattern of communication, a cadence of work, a definition of done, a container for conflict, a division of labor at home, a path back from a misstep. You make the proposal small, testable, and time-bound. You let the result teach you something real. If the answer is no, or the behavior says no while the mouth says yes, accept the education and select accordingly. You do not threaten, you do not litigate. You adjust your distance and keep your standards. Tone is a boundary too. The words can be right while the mouth makes them wrong. You do not owe anyone a raised voice to prove seriousness, and you do not owe anyone syrup to prove compassion. You owe accuracy. When heat rises, speak in sentences that a tired person could obey without decoding. I am available when we can talk without sarcasm. I won't commit without dates and owners. If this misses again, I'll step back and reassign. I'm not available for this pattern. Here are two alternatives I can do. You do not recite these like spells. You deliver them like directions. Directions don't beg to be respected. They either get followed or they don't, and you adjust the route accordingly. Enforcement without spectacle is difficult at first because vanity wants witnesses. Quiet consistency is more lethal to nonsense than any speech. You don't flood the chat with reasons. You don't convene a jury of mutual friends. You don't over-explain as if your self-respect requires a permission slip. You state the line once and you live as if it were true. The first few times you do this, anxiety will tell you that you are about to be abandoned. Sometimes you will be, which is education. Often you will not, because people who are confused by your pliability will relax around your edges. They will learn that, with you, expectations are explicit, deadlines are real, and affection is not a bribe. This is how belonging becomes stable rather than theatrical. Work obeys the same law. If meetings are where decisions go to get seen rather than made, stop attending unless there is an owner, a decision, and a date. If your role keeps inheriting emergencies born from other people's vagueness, ask for the terms on paper and accept only the slice you can deliver without burning your anchors. If your calendar is treated like an open bar, publish your availability and keep it. If your title is used as an excuse to pay you with praise instead of with leverage, bring receipts that tie your contributions to outcomes someone else cares about and negotiate terms that align upside with value. None of this requires rage. It requires the refusal to apologize for the weight your work deserves. The body remains part of boundaries. Chemical chaos makes self-betrayal cheap. You will capitulate more when you are underslept, over-caffeinated, overfed on novelty, and starved of movement. Guard the inputs that keep your judgment funded, and you will say fewer yeses you do not mean. Sleep at the same hour until your future starts to trust you. Move until your breath convinces your mind that you are not in a cage. Eat and drink as if tomorrow's credibility were on the receipt. The people who benefit from your malleability will call this rigid. Flexibility that depends on being depleted is not generosity, it is collapse marketed as virtue. Expect pushback from those who enjoy the discount version of you. Discounts attract bargain hunters. Raise the price to the cost of your coherence, and some customers will leave reviews. Do not chase them into comment sections. Spend your energy building a room with people who pay full price in the currencies that matter: honesty, effort symmetry, clarity under pressure, clean exits when terms can't be met. You are not creating an elite club. You are building a civilization small enough to govern and strong enough to survive weather. One partner who tells the truth is a nation. One friend who keeps their word is a city. One team that rewards clarity over heroics is a continent. Protect these geographies, and they will protect you. Selection also applies to your own impulses. You will catch yourself choosing speed over accuracy because speed flatters your anxiety. You will catch yourself selecting drama over design because drama buys attention cheaply. You will catch yourself rehearsing a grievance because the performance distracts you from changing one thing you control. Select against these temptations by returning to the page where your terms live. Read the lines aloud until your mouth remembers they exist. Then do the smallest behavior that proves one line without audience. Decline the vague invitation. Write the definition of done. Schedule the work block. End the conversation that is devolving into weapons. Move your body, cook your meal, close your laptop at the hour you promised. Small enforcement restores large dignity. There will be days when your standards cost you something you wanted. The project will move without you. The room will tell a version of the story that flatters itself. A person you love will prefer a loop you can't survive. Let the losses be honest. Grieve without converting grief into a rationale for abandoning yourself. The measure of this phase is not how many wins you stack, it is how few self-inflicted wounds you add to the inevitable ones. If you must carry pain, carry it for a choice you can sign. That is what boundaries buy, pain you can respect. The reveal here is quiet. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing for wanting terms that keep you human. You stop auditioning for rooms that need your confusion to function. You become easier to trust because your behavior predicts itself. You become harder to misuse because access is earned by alignment and kept by consistency. You may not look different to strangers, but the people who move through your old fog will notice that the air is clearer and costs more to breathe. That is the point. Clarity is never free. It is always worth the price. Fear is persuasive because it recites evidence in your own voice. It points to a missed sale, a failed launch, a conversation that went sideways, and it reminds you of every tremor in your pulse as if heart rate were a peer-reviewed source. You will not out-argue it with slogans. You will outrank it with sequence. Act first, then let feelings catch up, preview obstacles, then let surprise starve. Courage is not the absence of adrenaline. It is the refusal to surrender leadership to adrenaline. Foresight is not pessimism. It is respect for friction. Together they turn what used to be drama into design. Begin by shrinking the first act until fear has nothing to grab. A mind that demands confidence before motion is asking for a prophecy to precede history. Give it a task so small that confidence is irrelevant. Write the opening sentence and send it to one person who matters. Dial and let it ring even if you plan to hang up after 3, Open the document and insert the outline you drafted last night. Step outside and walk for 2 minutes to break the trance that tells you you're trapped. You are not training talent here, you are training order of operations. Action leads, mood follows. The first minute does not need to be noble, it needs to exist. When it exists, your attention relocates from imaginary futures to a present you can shape, and present details are less terrifying because they can be named. Pair this with a rehearsal that retires the tyranny of surprise. You are not inviting catastrophe, you are withdrawing its favorite weapon. Name 3 specific obstacles that will likely appear between now and the deliverable. Then write the smallest executable response to each. A key partner will go quiet schedule, 2 clean follow-ups, then pivot to your prepared alternates so momentum compounds elsewhere. Fatigue will arrive at 4 place, the 10-minute reset in the calendar and stage water, protein, and a short walk route so you do not negotiate with a chair. Scope will creep lock the definition of done on paper with names and dates and protect it from poetry. You are not proving heroism, you are removing excuses. Run a simple pre-mortem before large pushes. Imagine that, 6 weeks from now, the project failed. List the top 3 banal causes. Not lightning strikes, but common leaks, ambiguous ownership, feedback arriving after it could affect reality, a deadline treated like a mood. Correct them now while the cost is small. Assign the owner in writing, time box feedback to the earliest useful moment, and convert the date from aspiration to constraint by naming what will be traded if it slips. You will feel less romantic and more adult. That is the point. Romance is cheap at the start and expensive at the end. Design reverses the pricing. Fear feeds on vagueness, so convert pep talks into checklists. Checklists are humility in bullet form. Do the 5 things that keep planes in the sky. Do the 3 things that keep meetings from becoming theater. Do the 2 things that keep your evening from purchasing tomorrow's clarity. For launches, the list includes definition of done, owner, date, cut scope if blocked, first user contacted, rollback plan written. For difficult conversations, the list includes 1 sentence of fact, 1 request that can be observed next week, 1 consequence delivered without venom if the request is ignored. The list is short enough to run while adrenaline compresses your grammar. You are not outsourcing courage to paper, you are giving courage a track to run on. Expect embarrassment to campaign for office. Much of what you label fear is just fear of being seen during the wobble between intention and skill. You can live through that. Treat embarrassment as weather and keep the smallest promise anyway. The nervous system learns by evidence, not by speeches. You will notice that the embarrassment decays faster when you are busy doing the thing that caused it. Standing still feeds it, movement metabolizes it. Foresight extends to context selection. You do not owe every challenge a duel. You owe your values a schedule. Say yes where the risk buys proximity to the person you are training to be, and say no where the risk exists only to appease spectators who forget you tomorrow. Preview the downstream consequences of wins as well as losses. If the pitch lands, who do you have to become to maintain the promise your signature implies? If the audience expands, what systems prevent your standards from being traded for reach? If the relationship deepens, what boundaries keep tenderness breathable? Sometimes the bravest action is decline. Refusal without bitterness is a higher form of strength than yes for applause. Keep physiology on your side. Fear rehearses in the body and files amicus briefs with your thoughts. You can argue for hours or breathe for minutes. Inhale through the nose, exhale longer than you inhaled, repeat until the pulse steps down. Touch something cold. Eat in a way that spares you the blood sugar courtroom. Move until your brain believes the animal is not trapped. None of this is self-help garnish. It is command of the control surfaces that let judgment work at 4P. Many ambitions die because their owners try to outthink a nervous system they refuse to fuel. When most people are selling tomorrow to purchase relief. Guard your language because it steers state. I'm overwhelmed invites collapse. I have more inputs than time. I will rank and start. Invites triage. This is impossible. Is theater. This cannot be done this way by this date. Here are two alternatives. Is design. I have to drains agency. I choose to returns it. Speak in sentences a tired person could execute. The mouth that makes clean requests and clean refusals becomes a bridge between foresight and action. The mouth that narrates crisis recruits the body into a panic it cannot use. When friction appears on schedule, avoid the two cheap exits, blame and heroics. Blame outsources the lever, heroics burn the engine to cross a short distance. Design is quieter. You ask which variable inside your control buys the largest reduction in future pain, and you move that one first. You shorten feedback cycles. You cancel the meeting that exists to be seen. You add a checklist to the handoff that keeps work from dying in email. You remove one entertainment from evenings that keeps you borrowing from mornings. None of this trends. All of it compounds. Relationships also benefit from this pairing. Courage asks you to say the thing without weapons. Foresight asks you to say it in a room where it can land. You request terms while both are calm. You agree on a small, observable trial. You review at a date that exists on a calendar rather than in a hope. If the trial fails, you step back cleanly instead of staging a courtroom. If it succeeds, you add weight slowly. You are not performing intimacy. You are engineering conditions where tenderness survives ordinary weather. Love is voluntary, respect is non-negotiable, clarity protects both. Build one daily ritual that forces action and one that forces preview. The action ritual lives at the front of the day and begins before any feed rents your mind. It is a single block where you move a real object forward. No spectators, no perfectionism, a receipt you can hold. The preview ritual lives near the end and fits on one card, tomorrow's first verb and noun, the three likely obstacles, the first response staged in the environment. Place the tool where your tired self will trip over it. Most failures of courage are failures of staging. Staging is cheap. You will still have days that slip. You will still watch a morning escape through a small hole, and you will be tempted to sell the afternoon to regret. Correction beats confession. Take the smallest decisive step now, not a vow about 10 steps tomorrow. The moral of a miss is not that you are back to zero, it is that friction, unaddressed, returns. Address it gently and immediately. The person who recovers fast from ordinary slips becomes unrecognizable faster than the person who collects perfect streaks and breaks loudly. The proof that this phase is working is a change in your relationship to surprise. You fear it less. Events still sting, but they rarely humiliate. Your week contains fewer emergencies that were actually poor design, and the unavoidable emergencies find you upright with tools in hand. People start giving you the hard calls because you do not scare easily and you do not set fires to look busy. The mirror does not show a hero, it shows a builder. Builders move first and preview friction. Then they move again. The final stretch is not about fireworks. It is about making ordinary days heavy enough to hold the person you built when novelty fades. 90 days tempts you to stage a reveal, but the quieter victory is to move through rooms without needing confirmation that you have changed. Perspective supplies that quiet. You lift your gaze from the close-up of today's inconveniences and step far enough back to see the shape of your life. From altitude, a missed text is weather, not a sentence. A skeptical colleague is a data point, not a destiny. A late train is friction, not fate. The view enlarges the field of decision and shrinks the impulse to dramatize. You do not trivialize real pain, but you stop letting small pain hire your tongue to make big speeches. You return to the work of the hour with steadier hands because you are no longer prosecuting the universe for being imperfect. Mortality sharpens the lens further. The calendar does not owe you a gentle path, and it owes you nothing at all after an unknown day. This is not a threat. It is a solvent that dissolves indulgences that never suited you. You speak cleaner because your words could be the last version someone hears from you. You choose your attention because you may not get to choose again. You finish more work because you no longer worship the fantasy of unlimited time. The thought is not a spell that removes fear. It is a weight that makes trivial temptations look appropriately small. It becomes easier to call a friend, to step outside, to move your body, to write the paragraph, to end the argument that eats an evening and feeds no one. The clock is not a tyrant. It is a teacher assigning urgency to what matters and indifference to what does not. Acceptance is the posture that turns perspective into behavior. Acceptance is not surrendering to whatever happens. It is meeting what happens with standards intact. You stop trying to renegotiate the past. You stop asking tomorrow to guarantee applause, and you stop suing weather for being weather. You notice what is true without adjectives. This demand arrived, that meeting moved, this person said no, the body is tired. And then you select from the menu of acts that remain under your control. You speak once with accuracy instead of 3 times with theater. You trade a plan that flatters ego for a plan that survives friction. You implement the smallest correction now instead of a sweeping promise later. The day begins to taste like stainless steel, clean, cold, and sturdy enough to cook something that will feed you again tomorrow. The reveal is internal long before anyone else recognizes it. You wake, and the first movement is not to consult the feed about who you are, it is to consult your own ledger. The line you wrote last night sits where your eyes can see it. There is a verb and a noun sharp enough for a tired person to execute. You move your hands and purchase the right to call yourself disciplined before anyone can dispute it. The afternoon arrives with its familiar campaign for shortcuts, and you decline in the smallest ways that make a large difference later: water instead of another stimulant, a walk instead of a scroll, a boundary enforced without heat instead of a polite betrayal. You will resent by dinner. The evening comes, and you remember that celebration is sweeter after proof, so you enjoy softness as a witness to labor rather than as a bribe to avoid it. These are not impressive stories. They are small votes cast in a quiet election where character is chosen. You will be tempted to convert the progress into posture. The mind wants a costume for the new identity, a set of phrases that prove you belong in rooms you used to sneak into. Resist that performance. It is loud and fragile. Let your conduct do the talking. When a conflict presents, you ask for facts and owners and dates, and then you keep your tone. When an opportunity appears, you run the pre-mortem before the celebration and accept only what you can carry without bankrupting your standards. When a person tries to rent your attention with flattery or outrage, you smile and keep your price. When you miss a step, you correct without confession, because spectacle is a tax on energy you need for repair. The absence of theater will feel like humility from the inside and often reads as confidence from the outside. Confidence, built on quiet evidence, is the only kind that lasts. The next test comes from success. Initial gains invite pressure to double back into the very habits you disciplined. People notice you more. Requests multiply. Praise arrives wearing the mask of entitlement. If you are not careful, the external confirmation you claim not to need will begin to set terms. Perspective protects you here by extending the horizon past the rush. You examine the cost of staying visible, the maintenance required by the attention you say you want, the risk of exchanging coherence for reach. You do not need to retreat into obscurity to stay clean, but you do need to keep your first loyalties visible: a morning you can own, a craft that proves itself, a body you treat as partner, a circle that wants your strength more than your chaos. The simplest rule is still the surest: accept nothing that requires you to apologize to yourself in the mirror. Acceptance changes how you love. You stop trying to enroll people in a curriculum they did not ask for. You stop writing speeches in your head about how they should change and start selecting for environments where your standards breathe. You grant access where behavior proves alignment and let distance grow where it does not, without a trial. You apologize quickly where you were wrong and decline to perform where you were only disliked. You stop recruiting accomplices to soothe your discomfort. Instead, you ask one honest friend to witness your acts without applause. It is quieter this way and more adult. You do not need a chorus when a ledger will do. The old cravings will visit in costumes. Fatigue will try to sell you the story that you have earned the right to abandon the rules that made you proud. Anxiety will try to prove that without a dramatic gesture, you will be forgotten. Nostalgia will curate a highlight reel from a version of you who suffered in ways memory refuses to admit. Let the visitors pass without signing the guest book. Raise the price on your attention again and watch how many salesmen leave. If a craving insists on being fed, feed it with the smallest dose that does not violate tomorrow. Your aim is not to become ascetic, it is to remain sovereign. By now, the ledger shows a pattern. Mornings that produce proof, afternoons that defend standards, evenings that end without a closing argument. The pattern is fragile only if you keep it secret. Protect it out loud, not by slogans, but by logistics. Place your tools where inertia favors the act you chose. Publish your unavailability to bids that used to buy you cheap. Carry a card with one sentence you intend to prove and put a pen next to it for the night's 2 lines. Ritual does not make you rigid. It makes you free to improvise within a frame that remains upright when weather misbehaves. A word about relapse, because nothing human runs on a perfect line. You will stumble at the worst time. A trip becomes a tumble when you indulge the old narrative that misses erase progress. Refuse that math. Progress is not a streak, it is a posture. If you err, pivot to the smallest reinforcing act you can complete in the next 20 minutes. Water, walk, write, apologize, sleep. A clean act now reclaims more ground than an ornate plan about tomorrow. People unrecognizable to their old habits aren't flawless, they are fast at repair. Soon you will encounter the first person who met you at the beginning of this run and tries to pull you back into the scripts that used to define you. They speak to the version of you who performed chaos for laughs or loyalty, who confused accessibility with affection, who auctioned standards for belonging. Do not rehearse. Reply with the calm of someone who knows his price. Offer terms once. Decline what punishes your coherence. Leave without explaining if explanation becomes the new attempt at control. Your refusal will teach faster than your lecture, and your steadiness will attract the kind of company you wanted when you started, the kind that breathes better in rooms with walls. The outside reveal, when it arrives, will be anticlimactic. No trumpet, no montage. Just someone saying, you feel heavier in a good way, that your presence makes decisions easier, that you look like you sleep. You will smile because you know the truth. Heaviness came from small acts repeated when no one was clapping. Decisions got easier because you stopped outsourcing them to mood. Sleep returned because your mouth stopped writing checks your spine could not cash. You became unrecognizable not by adding drama, but by removing lies. Carry forward one line that keeps the edge you earned. Love the path you can walk and walk it clean. Love does not mean passivity, it means intimacy with reality. Clean does not mean sterile, it means governed by standards strong enough to withstand praise and indifference. If this sounds unromantic, watch what it does to a quarter of your life. It empties your day of avoidable crises. It turns quiet hours into production. It turns conflict into design. It turns appetite into a citizen rather than a king. It turns you, slowly and then suddenly, into the kind of man you would hire, befriend, and trust under weather. 90 days is not the summit. It is a handoff. The project continues without a hashtag. Keep the morning contract and the evening ledger. Keep the anchors that buy proof and the boundaries that keep you human. Keep the courage that moves first and the foresight that previews friction. Keep the perspective that remembers the horizon and the acceptance that keeps your hands on the oars. When the world calls this luck, answer with a paragraph you shipped before breakfast. When it calls it coldness, answer with a kindness you could afford because you protected your peace. When it forgets to call at all, keep building. The reveal was never for them. It was the moment you noticed you no longer needed to explain who you are. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.